Good afternoon. I'm Hannah DeBank, Head of FOW and SRP Events Asia, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the FOW Japan Virtual Conference 2021. Today's agenda will consist of one keynote presentation, one fireside chat, and two panel discussions. At each session, we'll hear from industry leaders from across the Japanese derivatives market who will be addressing the most pressing challenges facing the industry. I'd like to thank all of our speakers who will be contributing to today's sessions, and a big thank you to our event partner, JEPX, who have worked alongside us in order to bring you this fantastic event. I'd also like to thank our sponsors and our supporting associations for their support, without which this event would not be possible. Our first session of the day will be looking at the deregulation of the electricity market and electricity futures market. I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Hatakeyama-san, Director General for Commerce and Service Industry Policy at the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. In 1992, Mr. Hatakeyama-san joined the Ministry of International Trade and Industry and has since been engaged in various fields, including international economic cooperation and energy policy. Since 1992, Mr. Hatakeyama-san has been appointed to many prestigious roles, including Director of Policy, Planning and Coordination Division of Commissioner's Secretariat in July 2018, and his position currently in July 2020. Today, we look forward to hearing from our speakers and would also like to hear from you too. We encourage you to ask questions throughout each session, which you can do via the question function on your screen. Every session is being recorded and will be available to you on demand. I'd now like to hand over to Mr. Hatakeyama-san to get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to FOW Japan today. I'm very glad that FOW is held for the first time in Japan. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hatakeyama Yojiro, Director General for Commerce and Service Industry Policy of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI of Japan. I have been in charge of a wide range of policies in METI, including the deregulation of the electricity market, and I'm currently responsible for the policy for derivatives trading. Today, there are so many participants related to derivatives transactions, so I would like to introduce the recent development of the power futures market in Japan, including some of its backgrounds. First of all, I'll talk about the deregulation of the electricity retail market, which is an important background of the Japanese electricity futures market. The deregulations of electricity retail market in Japan started in March 2000. It was intended to reduce electricity rates by relieving market entry regulations and introducing market competition into the electricity business, especially the retail sector that was monopolized by power companies in each region. Until March 2016, Japanese electricity consumers could only buy electricity from a fixed power company according to the area where you lived. For example, a person who lives in Tokyo could buy electricity only from TEPCO, the Tokyo Electric Power Company. Likewise, a person who lives in Osaka could buy electricity only from the Kansai Electric Power Company. That changed in April 2016, when the electricity retail market was fully deregulated. Now, it's possible for everyone to purchase electricity from any power retailer, so a person who lives in Tokyo can buy electricity from Kansai Electric Power Company or any other power retail company. In addition to that, various kinds of companies can conduct electricity businesses. The companies that newly entered the electricity retail business are generally called new entrants. You can understand that the deregulation of electricity retail market gives consumers freedom to choose power retailers and also gives companies freedom to enter into the electricity retail business. In Japan, electricity is supplied to each consumer through the power plant, transmission line, a transformer substation, and distribution line. In April 2020, the power company separated its power transmission business from other power businesses as legally required. Also, power businesses were classified into three sectors: the power generation sector, the transmission and distribution sector, and the retail sector. Although businesses in the power generation sector and retail sector in principle can start conducting business freely, The transmission and distribution division of a business needs a permit from the government to start a business and continues to be regulated. The market share of new entrants based on the volume of electricity sold has been steadily increasing. As of March 2021, the market share of new entrants in total demand reached approximately 19.5%. Power retail deregulation has created market competition, and this has been established in Japan. According to the number of electricity contracts, the market share of new entrants are steadily rising. The share of new entrants in Japan reached 3% in the first year and 18.6% in the fifth year from the start of full deregulation. In comparison, in the United Kingdom, after the full deregulation of the electricity retail market in 1999, the share of new entrants reached 12% in the first year and 40% in the fifth year. In France, after the full deregulation of the electricity retail market in 2007, the share of new entrants reached 1% in the first year and 7% in the fifth year. I would say Japan is doing fairly well, judging from these numbers. JEPX, Japan Electric Power Exchange, was established in 2003 to steadily carry out power retail deregulation. The target of JEPX is to expand wholesale opportunities for electricity operators, including new entrants, and to form an appropriate transaction price and carry out smooth transactions. Now, JEPX has 271 member power companies, and it is actively engaged in wholesale power transaction. Currently, 99% of transactions at JEPX are trading in the spot market, which is a physical transaction, not derivatives. Products are traded every 30 minutes, so there are 48 products per day. Traders place, sell, or buy bids for the 48 products for the next day based on the desired price and the desired amount before 10 o'clock a.m. JEPX forms a supply and demand curve based on all bid prices, and the intersection of the demand curve and the supply curve determines the contract price and the quantity. Then all transactions are traded at this contract price regardless of the bidding price. It is called a single price auction system. Transaction volume in JEPX was less than 5% of total demand at the beginning of the deregulation in April 2016, but currently stands at over 30%. This indicates that the deregulation of the electricity retail is working in a proper way. Now, I would like to introduce the spot market price trends. Thermal power operators and renewable power generators place sell bids at different prices according to their marginal cost for generating respective power. Thermal power operators would not generate electricity if the contract price is lower than the fuel cost. Therefore, the operators usually place sell bids at the fuel cost. But for the renewable power generators, such as solar power and wind power, it is rational to place sell bids at the lowest price available in JEPX, which is 0.01 yen per kilowatt hour, because the marginal cost for renewable power generation is usually zero. Since the start of the feed-in tariff system in 2012, an increasing amount of renewable power was flowing into the market, which has been pushing down the spot market price. And with the FIT system revision in 2017, power transmission operators who were required to purchase renewable power from renewable generators have been placing sell bids at 0.01 yen per kilowatt hour, and that pushed down the spot price even lower. As a result, the time period in which the market price is at the lowest price of 0.01 yen per kilowatt hour has extended. On the other hand, there is also a risk of price spike. In recent years, the market price rose sharply due to an increase in power demand caused by the cold weather, coupled with a decrease in thermal power generation due to the lack of LNG. As you can see in the chart, the highest average daily price reached over 154 yen per kilowatt hour, which is more than 10 times higher than the usual price range. In addition, lifting the so-called fuel cost adjustment system will only increase the need for hedging against the price fluctuation risk. The fuel cost adjustment system is a system to quickly adjust the retail price according to the ups and downs in fuel prices and exchange rates, which are the important factors for the thermal generation cost. This system enabled electricity companies to be almost free from risk of fluctuations in fuel prices and exchange rates. This system still exists as a transitional measure despite the deregulation of electricity retail market. On the other hand, the number of electricity contracts based on the fuel cost adjustment system is decreasing, and as a result, electricity companies are more and more exposed to the risk of fluctuations in fuel prices and exchange rates. Therefore, the need to take measures to avoid price fluctuation risk is increasing and will only increase in the future. The spot market is currently playing an important role to ensure that the new entrants are able to smoothly procure power and to build an efficient power supply system. On the other hand, the risk of market price fluctuations are getting higher and higher. One day, the market price is very low because of increased renewable power, and the next day, the market price may skyrocket, whatever the reason may be. Add the diminishing role of the fuel cost adjustment system to that, and power companies will be exposed to a serious price fluctuation risk. Therefore, it is very important that the power retail companies take action to control power demand and avoid price risks in order to offer stable power services and to have a stable management. So we are going to activate the Japan futures market and also going to promote the management of corporate risk through utilizing market measures. In the near future, we are going to revise the strategic energy plan, which stipulates the basic energy policy. In the draft published on July 21st, we emphasize the importance of activating the electricity futures market and to promote the management of corporate risk through the market that I mentioned earlier. Next, I would like to talk about Japanese electricity futures market. The electricity market in Japan has both day-ahead and hour-ahead markets, as well as the forward and futures markets. Retailers use these markets to procure electricity. 2 years have passed since the electricity futures were first listed at TOCOM, the Tokyo Commodity Exchange, in 2019. And EEX and CME have started a clearing service for electricity futures in Japan. With regard to the spot market, the amount of transactions has increased with the development of deregulation of electricity retail market, and as I mentioned earlier, the share of the spot market transactions is more than 30% of total demand. On the other hand, derivatives transactions, which work as a hedge against the price fluctuation risks, are another story. Although trading participants are increasing, the total trade volume is far less than that of the spot market. Derivatives transaction volume accounts for only 0.2% of total demand. This is an overview of the transaction provided by each company. I'm omitting the details, but it is possible for trading companies to take part in either TOCOM EX or CME. Since the price spike in January 2021, the hedging needs of electricity companies against rising prices is increasing, and electricity futures transactions at TOCOM and EX are on an increasing trend. Let's look at the challenges we need to overcome in order to expand the electricity futures transactions in the future. In European countries where electricity retail deregulation preceded Japan, futures transactions outstrip electricity demand, but the amount of futures transactions in Japan is still very small. 5 years have passed since electricity market was fully deregulated in Japan, and because of the market competition, the management of price risk should be essential to have a successful business. I think the power companies in Japan are well aware of this, but there are some reasons for the fact that there is little to none amount of future transactions. Even if a perfect future market is developed, it is meaningless if no one uses it. Regardless of other benefits, from the viewpoint of price risk management alone, we consider that increasing the amount of transactions is critical. According to the survey for electricity power retail companies conducted by Electricity and Gas Market Surveillance Commission, there are many reasons for not undertaking hedging transactions. Those are lack of understanding of hedging, insufficient personnel, and insufficient system infrastructure. Price fluctuation risk naturally accompanies the deregulation of electricity systems. We'll encourage power companies to learn how to hedge against price risk and to develop necessary human resources. Based on this situation, the Agency for Natural Resources and Energy will establish a risk management guideline that contains actions and standard risk assessment methods which are considered desirable for power companies and will explain the importance of hedging against price fluctuation risk. In addition, TOCOM has a seminar on electricity futures, and EEX are creating a video for new entrants. We are committed to activating the electricity futures market through promotion of corporate risk management, including personnel training. Finally, in addition to develop a successful electricity futures market, I believe that it is also important to have an appropriate market monitoring system to secure fairness of the transactions because those futures are traded worldwide. The Japanese government has joined International Organization of Securities Commissions, IOSCO, and is building international coalitions with each country to improve coordination and harmonization of regulations. We are cooperating with the world's main countries. In 2017, we have signed a memorandum with ESMA in order for Japan's clearing organizations to offer clearing services to European exchanges and financial institutions. In 2019, in response to Brexit, we signed a memorandum with FCA in order to engage in cooperation and information exchange about funds and fund managers' supervision. Through these actions, we have formulated a surveillance system to ensure fair trading. In Japan, it is essential to have a solid understanding of the supply and demand trends and distribution status of both electricity and oil in order to detect and expose unfair trading, market manipulation that combines physical and futures trading. Therefore, METI will mainly engage in managing and monitoring both physical and futures trading of electricity to maintain fair trading in the market. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your kind attention. One last remark. I think the electricity derivatives market has a huge potential to play an essential role in the energy market, and I promise I will support its growth. I hope that the next 2 days of this FOW sessions will be successful and fruitful ones that will lead to the development of more active derivatives trading in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hatakeyama-san. That was the perfect opening speech. I, and I'm sure everyone else, found it very informative, and it is a great start to the 2021 FOW Japan virtual conference. We very much hope you all have enjoyed listening to this session. We will now be taking a 5-minute break and will reconvene at 3:35 p.m. Tokyo time, which is 2:35 p.m. Singapore time, for our fireside chat on electricity futures and related products by JEPX. We look forward to seeing you shortly.